we are going through a lot of strategic planning right now, as we are one of the fastest growing counties, not only in Colorado, but nationwide. We're a pretty young county. Our average age, I believe at this point, is just over 35. We're a majority minority community, which is always a really interesting and exciting thing to bring into local government, because you're trying to make sure that your local government and the practices you put out there are reflective of the community that you serve. And so I think that is something that the county leadership, both the elected officials and the appointed, really take to heart in trying to make sure that we are being welcoming and inclusive to a very broad audience.
Yeah. Okay, the Jentry Podcast. I know that you will be loving it. We here to break it down so that you start to understand your local government. Who are the leaders? Time to get active, do something about it. Dealing with jobs, the workforce, and affordable housing. Motivate and inspire. Elevate, take it higher. For the next generation. Knowledge is power for your community. Giving you the info that you really need. Time to make a change and a difference. Tune in, don't miss it. It's the Jentry. The Jentry Podcast. The Jentry Podcast. Making a change, switching it up.
Hello, and welcome to the Jentry Podcast. Today, we have an incredible guest. I'm your host, Jonathan Mason, and with me today, I have Jenni Hall, who is the Community and Economic Development Director of Adams County, Colorado. I'm excited. She's had experience in county government, city government, and also at one of the largest nonprofits in the United States. So I'm super excited to have Jenni here. But before we jump right in, Jenni, how are you doing today?
Doing well. Things are pretty calm in Colorado right now. The fires are coming down, so we'll just hope it stays that way.
I indeed hope it stays that way. But before we get all the way into it, you brought up Colorado. So I need to know, as I always do, what is the special sauce? What is the reason that Adams County is the best place to live in the United States?
Well, I mean, it's not very hard to sell Colorado, right? Anybody who's been here knows we have just gorgeous weather most all of the year. Winters aren't too harsh. You've got great ski country. But I think what is really special about Adams County is when you fly in, where most people do, right, to Denver International Airport, that's actually within Adams County. There's this little donut hole that's the city and county of Denver, and Adams County surrounds that. So we're just at a hub of lots of people coming and going through the state, and it creates all kinds of opportunities and centers for businesses, for people to make this their home base. And so I feel really privileged to be able to lead the Community and Economic Development Department for the county.
That is awesome. And I'll be actually flying into that airport pretty soon in September here.
Excellent. It's a great airport.
A very large airport, I will say that. But yes. So now I always say that you can learn so much about a city, about a county, by learning about their leadership. So take me through your background. Was leading a county always in the cards? Is this something that you fell into? Was this always something that was on your mind? How did we get here?
Well, I think, there are certainly those in public service. I think of police officers and firefighters that, knew from the time they were little kids, this is what I want to do. I don't think that's the case for community and economic development directors, right? You don't have 5-year-olds running around saying that's what I'm going to do. But I did always, my parents were in various aspects of public service. My father was a mayor of my hometown in Kansas when I was very young. So I got to see that side of things. I can remember answering the phone and, no, Dad's at city council. Can I take a message? So that was a pretty foundational part of my upbringing. I just didn't necessarily recognize it as such. I always thought I would be a teacher. That was, and I have taught in higher ed and some in K-12 further back. And I think I am still very much a teacher at heart, and I bring that perspective to a lot of what I do today. But yeah, I went through my undergrad, I would say probably my junior year. I thought, no, I actually really love building things. But I was so far along in my undergraduate, I just finished out the degree I was in, which was psychology. Again, something that's really, really helpful to leading a group of people. And then I came back and I I lived in Germany for 4 years after college and then came back and started graduate school for architecture and urban design here in Denver to CU Denver. And when I finished that, I did a brief stint as a city planner for one of the Adams County municipalities, Commerce City. Learned so much, and I realized that local government was really a place where I could pull together a lot of my different interests and skill sets. But I had this amazing opportunity to go and work for the organization, you said, one of the biggest nonprofits. We have an amazing Habitat for Humanity affiliate here in Metro Denver. And I had the chance to go work for them at a really pivotal point in that organization's growth where up till that point, they'd had a lot of pro bono work done by local architects to, create the housing plans, but they were just moving too fast. And so they needed someone in-house. And so I got to go on staff there. I was with Habitat Metro Denver for about 4.5 years and did all of their design project management. So got to standardize the house plans, and we were building across, I think, 11 or 12 different jurisdictions at that time. So I had that experience of, well, how come I can go submit plans here and it goes really smoothly and it's straightforward, but then I just go next door and it is just a nightmare. And so that experience was something I was able to bring back in to the role that I'm in now of really understanding what it's like to be on both sides of the table in development. After Metro Denver, I got to indulge another one of my passions for a little bit. I taught in the College of Design at Iowa State University. Loved that. But ultimately, I needed to come back to Colorado for my family. And I started with City of Westminster, another Adams County municipality, at an exciting time where we were going through a lot of redevelopment work. And that really speaks to my heart too, how to take communities that have maybe been underinvested in for a while, getting a little bit tired, the infrastructure needs updating, and bring some new energy to that to revitalize them. I have been at Adams County now for just over 5 years, leading community and economic development department as the director. I have about 65 amazing professionals that work there with me. And we cover that whole gamut, really, from long range planning and economic development all the way through permitting, the building and planning development review cycle. We have an incredible housing policy team and environmental programs. Yeah, you would think I had planned the route a little bit better, but really a lot of it's just been serendipity and landing in a really great place.
Wow, that is amazing. And yeah, it almost does feel like you planned it. I want to get like one thing I hear people say that the best defense attorneys were also prosecutors and vice versa. So you got to be on both sides of the coin and got to see it from different perspectives. And that's made it even more well-rounded. And then even from being in different municipalities in Adams County and now working at the county level. So it does feel like it was planned, but I'm glad you landed at the perfect role for you. Now shifting more to the X's and O's of Adams County, what are some of the strategic focuses over the next few years or you have coming up?
Yeah, so it's a very large county. I'll start there. So it's 1,200 square miles. The western side of it feels very much part of the Denver metro area. You wouldn't know you were in an unincorporated area. But then as it stretches east, it's really very rural with a lot of ag and ranching and much lower population density, which is great from the standpoint of, all right, really just about any context you might want to live in or site your business in, it's going to be somewhere in that spectrum. It also, though, makes it challenging at times to make sure we're delivering equal levels of service and what people need. So we are going through a lot of strategic planning right now, as we are one of the fastest growing counties, not only in Colorado, but nationwide. We're a pretty young county. Our average age, I believe at this point, is just over 35. We're a majority minority community, which is always a really interesting and exciting thing to bring into local government, because you're trying to make sure that your local government and the practices you put out there are reflective of the community that you serve. And so I think that is something that the county leadership, both the elected officials and the appointed, really take to heart in trying to make sure that we are being welcoming and inclusive to a very broad audience. We have families here who have been farming the land for generations, and we have a lot of transplants from other states. So it's a great mix of perspectives and opportunities.
Wow. And I can appreciate that trying to balance is the services that are needed when everyone in the county may not need the exact same services or may not need them delivered in the same means from a very rural aspect to a very, very large metropolitan aspect. So I can see the kind of the balancing act that takes there. Now, I feel like I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't ask this question. When we talk about housing affordability, housing attainability, for better or worse, that means a lot of people want to live in the Denver metropolitan area. Denver comes up with the LAs, New Yorks of the world when it comes to the ability to either rent or buy. In Adams County, what have you seen from a housing affordability and or attainability standpoint?
Yeah, it's a really good question. So the Denver metro as a whole is, I believe, still the most expensive housing market that's not on a coast. So we definitely still have a lot of challenges. I think Adams County has been one of the more affordable parts of the metro area. We really try to capitalize on that. We have quite a lot of the blue collar community that lives in Adams County. So a lot of construction. Yeah, a lot of our public servants, actually, teachers, and we really want to make sure. Sorry, the air is dry in Colorado. I got to keep drinking.
So all you're all fine.
We want to make sure that we continue to really have housing types and locations that serve a broad range of residents. So we have been growing quite a lot to the eastern part of the county, the I-70 corridor and all around Denver International Airport. That's an area of a lot of growth, the town of Bennett. So new construction out that way. At the same time, we're trying to make sure we are making good use of infill opportunities that's more part of the western side of the county. So we just did our comprehensive plan update 3 years ago. Comprehensive plans take a few years to go through the process. We adopted it in 2022. And as soon as we got that vision sort of set that really articulates the values of the community around sustainability, careful use of our natural resources. We're a water constrained environment here in Colorado. Taking those values for the future and folding them into the development standards and the codes that we have in place. So we are kind of nearing the end of a multi-year effort to update our development standards and regulations that reflect the best practices today. Some of that has meant that we've introduced things like gentle density. So a neighborhood that maybe previously only had single family homes now could also have a duplex, right? We are an ADU, or accessory dwelling unit, supportive jurisdiction in the state of Colorado. We weren't required to be under legislation. Most of the counties were not, but we voluntarily opted into that. So any place that a single family home is allowed by code, you can also have an ADU. We're updating that to include the duplexes as well. And we really just kind of did this gentle stepping. If you could previously have a duplex, now you can have a multiplex, so 3 or 4 units. And where you could have 3 and 4 units, now you can go a little higher. So that allows that change to occur more gradually and not be so disruptive of neighborhoods. So we're trying to put those regulations in place. The same time, we have done a water baseline analysis for the county and are going to adopt a water master plan. That has been a unique challenge because Adams County, like many counties, we're not a direct water provider. We have over 80 special districts for water and sanitation service. It's a lot of cats to herd, but we've had some fantastic work done by our in-house team and our consultants to really try and help us have a broad understanding of what our water resources look like. And that certainly is one of the major contributors to the cost of housing in Colorado is the cost of water to serve those homes.
Wow, that is. I don't envy you. I definitely respect the work you're doing, but I do not envy you when it comes to water. I think living on the East Coast, sometimes I've been just unaware of how important water can be, not to like living, but just to a city and to a county. But I did get a chance to live on the West Coast for a bit, and we were like going through a drought. I wasn't allowed to use water. I was like, what is going on?
Yeah. Why is my yard brown? Yeah.
But I can understand having, lived on that coast and now having worked in housing, how important that is and how it does drive up the cost. So I do have a follow-up question when it comes to affordability, but I do want to resonate that you did kind of tease out another layer to that, and water is so important. But I have to ask, is the affordability issue that we see across the nation, is it more of a jobs problem or a housing and supply problem?
Good question. I think, there's nuance to every community. If you were to look at the housing affordability issue, let's say in some of our mountain resort communities, it has been very much about keeping adequate supply available to the workforce that needs to be there. So I have a lot of second, probably third and fourth homeowners that have properties in those mountain communities, very wealthy, but they still want to have the cute coffee shops and the restaurants and the retail. And so that workforce is very, very different. And I would say there's been a lot of progress made, still a lot of work to do to make sure that there is adequate supply within proximity to those jobs. It looks different, of course, when you come down into the Front Range in the metro area. Here, I think it's more, and we've had a really exceptional effort led by the Denver Regional Council of Governments, so the 7-county metro area. Housing is a regional issue. It's rarely confined to the boundaries of any one community. And we needed to get a good understanding of, okay, across these 7-county areas, where are we short of different types of housing, and how closely do they match the area median income? So there's a regional housing needs assessment that was done. I think we finished that last year. The regional housing strategy is in its final steps to be released, but that helps set some more targeted metrics to, let's say it's, back where I used to work, City of Westminster. Okay, you're really short in this particular income band in these types of units. So they know how to channel their efforts to work with development partners to deliver those types of units to that area that will more closely match the population needs. And so various jurisdictions will take different approaches to that. We at the county are really in kind of a unique position where we still have some room to expand on the higher end of the AMI. And that's great because those are a little bit easier to deliver. Any place that you are trying to serve that segment of the population that is like the 30 to 50% area median income, they may be working multiple jobs, but their income just isn't keeping up. And it takes a lot of subsidy to make a development successful. I think that's the greatest challenge. We deploy our federal entitlement dollars through our department, so community development block grant funds, home investment partnership funds. But you're always in that place of there's not enough money to solve the problem for all of your residents. And so we just try to take really a return on investment sort of approach to how we put those funds. How can we get the most bang for the buck and try to impact the largest number of our residents that we can in a positive way, but always have to keep an eye out for creative solutions.
That makes a ton of sense. So you shared a lot, and you shared the successes and the challenges, and how to get innovative on these issues. I have one more question before you are officially off the hot seat, and we can move on to some games. But what is the one issue that late at night, 3 a.m., you wake up, and you're like, man, if I could just get this figured out, it would really help Adams County out.
Oh boy. Well, this doesn't just keep me up at night. I think this keeps quite a few people in our area up at night. Certainly the housing affordability is a big one, but I think we also, the Front Range, the Denver metro area has had challenges with air quality for a long time. Some of that's just the patterns of weather and airflow here, but We're in a severe non-attainment area under EPA standards. So we just have a lot of days where the air quality is not optimal. And it's rough when you've got such a beautiful environment as Colorado to not feel like you can be outside as much as you want to. And I'm fortunate to have some really outstanding people in my department. We have a one with a PhD in air quality, and she's been doing a great job of securing grant funding to get air filters, air quality filters to serve a lot of our lower income residents. So they just sign up, they're income qualified, they can get that installed in their home, and it makes a big difference. But you can hear it in my voice. I think today that poor air quality does not really distinguish across income levels or geographic locations here in the Metro Denver area. And so I think about that a lot because I feel it. I feel it myself. I see it in my family. So
That is the big one. Yeah, you've hit so many of the things we kind of take for granted: water, clean air, the ability to breathe and move the way we want. So I think that is a great one to keep top of mind. And I'm glad it seems like you have some pretty smart and well educated people tackling that issue. So that
very much.
definitely makes me happy. Now we are shifting away. Will take us to our last chance games. And these come from improv. So think a quick yes and whatever is the first thing that comes to your mind. I'll ask you a question and then I'll give you a chance later to either change the answer, strike it from the record, or whatever you want to do, or just explain it. But the first one, and I'll read them here. Can you give me a policy that looks good on paper, but is almost impossible to implement in real life?
Hmm. Yes, I would say trying to deliver housing to every income level is almost impossible.
That makes makes a ton of sense. Okay, let's go to the next one. So, what is a role that you don't have on staff currently, but if you added today would affect outcomes positively immediately?
Yeah, well, your timing is great because I just had to submit budget requests for next year. So I've got an FTE that I would love to be able to get a water resources engineer.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
And then last question before we give you a chance to explain or change. What is a task that you think AI could help you with your job, and then what is a task that AI could never help you with your
Oh,
job?
goodness. Yeah, we're starting to explore how we can better use AI sort of in the permit application process, right? When people have very straightforward questions, I know that staff spend a lot of time trying to walk them through this is what you need to have in a traffic study, et cetera, et cetera. And so I think we're going to look at deploying AI there to free up some of that staff to work more on the actual review process and get a lot of the questions answered through AI. One that I could never do. Oh, probably contract negotiation. I don't think I can turn that over to AI easily.
So I'm gonna go back to the last three and give you a chance to either explain, change, or strike from the record. So the first one is a policy that is hard to implement, and you hit a big one: providing housing at all the different income levels. Can you explain if you want to on
Yes.
that one?
I think when we look at the segment of our population that is really at 0 to 30% area median income, it's oftentimes folks with mental health issues, disabilities, veterans that need other services beyond just the housing. And even if we could build the housing for them in terms of numbers, it doesn't necessarily address all the needs of keeping someone stably housed. And so that is not just a financial commitment on the part of a city or county. It comes with a lot of other services and really understanding people's needs and meeting them where they are. That is just no small task. And I think would like to think if we just had enough money to deploy, we could fix that problem. But it's much more complex than that.
Yeah, I met with a task force, a housing task force in Los Angeles, and one of the breakout sessions for the day was permanent supportive housing.
Yeah.
And it is, yeah, it is very tough. It is not just creating enough beds, creating enough housing. It's what do people need at different levels? Are there people? Is there a point in which somebody is a patient versus a resident, and what do the legalities beyond that. So yeah, that one is very difficult. But again, I'm glad to have minds like yourself really being thoughtful about it. So the next one was what role on staff? You said a water was a water services
Water
engineer,
resource
water
engineer.
resources engineer.
It's a real job. Yeah. So we think we've already talked about it a lot. In Colorado, water is just one of those foundational issues that we deal with in local government. And there's both water resources, right? The supply of water from underground aquifers, et cetera. And then there's the infrastructure, the pipes to actually get it where it needs to go. And so when we have new development coming in, we're trying to do our best to project whether or not what we're building is going to be able to access water far into the future. So there's a water resource evaluation that goes with that. That's a very technical area of expertise. We rely right now quite a lot on our state water board to do the review, and having someone on staff that can really navigate Adams County's water portfolio, not just what the county itself actually owns in terms of water rights, but what that looks like for private entities across the county as well, so that we make the best informed decisions we can when we build something new.
Yeah, that is very important to be able to project that into the future, so you're not putting yourself or putting, our children, the next generation, into a bad bind there. So I will go to the next one. What is something that AI can help you with and
Yeah.
can't help you with? So potentially permitting and at least getting the initial questions taken care of, but not contract negotiation.
No, there's just too much nuance there. I mean, maybe helping draft the contract, we might be able to do that, but I think that's such a human-centered function, and it's all about the relationship, right, between the parties in the contract. And if it's positive, you can create some really great things. If it's adversarial, it gets nasty quickly. And I think turning that over to AI would just be fraught with difficulties. But there really is so much, and there's a lot of emerging platforms right now for that permitting space. A lot of cities and counties have gone to using AI in that way, just to sort of frequently ask questions. You can easily utilize something like a chat bot to do that, and it definitely can free people up. But I think we've all had that experience of being stuck in a loop, right? And like, I can't get out of it, and I just need a real human to be able to help me. So even if we deploy some tools like that, we still have to have great customer service with real people when there are complexities to the questions, or just a need for more assistance. I mean, we have a lot of our population that would never feel comfortable utilizing a tool like that. And so making sure that there are off ramps that really serve the community in the way that it needs, that's important too.
Makes a ton of sense. And I'm one of those people, press 0 for operator a
Right.
thousand times. So I can understand that population. So this one's a two-parter. What do developers understand about development projects that sometimes city or county governments can overlook? And then the inverse. What do developers often overlook that city and county governments definitely keep at the forefront?
Yeah. I think, developers are always acutely aware that time is money, right? And so carrying financing costs, construction costs longer than necessary is a real issue for them. And that is not always well understood or appreciated on the government side. It's, I think, the area where I feel that having been on the private side of development for a while is one of the most valuable things that I bring to the county. So it's important that we have checks and balances. It's important that your local government can do the types of reviews that are necessary to keep the community safe. So, the checks and balances are important. And I think about it, especially with land use, right? Whether it's a rezoning or a subdivision or a project review, it does affect the community in which it's going to be built. And so having good public processes, the opportunity for neighbors to provide their comments and suggestions, what they need, that has to happen. But I think that there is a lot that we need to do on our side to communicate effectively with the developer so that they can continue moving in a timely way. nothing stresses me out more than when I get the phone call from a developer who's like, I don't understand why I am in my 5th round of review and I can't seem to resolve this issue with XYZ individual, right? Because then I have to get in there. I want the standard to be, no, let's help. In fact, it's one of our strategic goals for this next year is to shave at least 1 round off of that review process. And it comes from both making the information clear and accessible so that we can get the best quality of submittals from the development community, make it easy for them to do good work. And then also on our side of the counter, making sure that we're doing really thorough reviews the first time through, trying to highlight any issues early on so that they can be quickly resolved and just get that project on its way faster.
I can totally understand that. It sounds like it's a true balancing act of, hearing and listening to the community and being thoughtful and thorough, but also maintaining and working as close to the speed of business that can be done, understanding that they have bottom lines as well. And then my next question will be, what is the hardest truth you wish residents knew about timelines and trade-offs?
I think, one of the challenging things for anybody in local government is the work never ends, right? It is communities are 24/7 entities. And when it's your permit, your project, hard to appreciate the fact that the staff you're working with are usually juggling many, many other things. Doesn't mean that we don't need to be responsive and communicate clearly, but I think recognizing that the thing that you need that is most important to you at this point in time, right? I need a permit because I need to get my water heater replaced now. This is an urgent issue. That the people that are helping you are also helping lots of other residents. And so just trying to maintain that appreciation and mutual respect. I mean, it's very important on both sides. We often see people when they're at their most stressed, they're most vulnerable. And so we have an obligation on our side too to treat them with that courtesy and respect. I think, we see it a lot, unfortunately, right now in the public sector, that just the appreciation for the challenges that we have. I don't know, it breaks my heart when I see residents getting upset and my staff getting upset. And we live in a heightened, tense political environment, and we can easily forget that we're all just people trying to do our job and live our lives.
Yeah, that's a big one for the residents in the community to understand that there are a lot of residents, a lot of good people in the community that have needs and wants and issues. So there's that aspect of it. And then, funny enough, my mom still works in county government, has for years. She always tells me, she said, oftentimes I'm the first point of contact for people ever interacting with the government in general.
Yeah.
And then also I'm often seeing them on one of the worst days of their life. And she always says, you have to maintain that aspect of customer service and being open and aware of what people are going through and what it feels for them just to interact with the government. So I definitely can appreciate that. Now I want to shift gears into the last question before I give you an opportunity to leave us with some closing words. But this is the fun time. I get to give you some free money.
Okay.
So it's the same question, but just varying degrees. So the first one is, if I could add an extra $1,000, $100,000
Okay.
to your budget, what role or staff member would you bring on to address a challenge? If I can add an additional $1 million to the budget, what challenge or initiative would you address? And then the last one is, if I gave you all the money in the world, you had all the staff, all the resources in the world for an entire year, what would be the challenge you would tackle?
Goodness. Okay, well we'll start with the easier one, right? I already talked about the water resources engineer. So let me think. One of our other wish FTEs is we can call it as an associate planner, somebody who is really that human presence to make sure when an application comes in that it's getting checked for completeness, a warm handoff. So really kind of between the person at the counter and who it needs to go to on staff for the first round of reviews, just bringing a little bit more of a concierge feel to that. That's just a service delivery area where I think we could use a little more bandwidth. And it has almost immediate positive impact, right, on the community, but it also helps staff. Now, $1 million, that's where we get to do a little bit more fun stuff. This is tricky because like I said, we have environmental and housing in this department, and they're both doing such important work. I think we would like to see more resources deployed in Adams County to air and water quality to really ensure that all of our residents, businesses, community members have the best condition of air and water that we could possibly deliver. So with $1 million, I think we could certainly, we can give out more air filters, more water quality devices to help improve that for our residents. We've got a lot actually in progress, so we would just probably amplify it, reach more people that way. Now, unlimited, goodness, I think that I would love to have every resident be able to call up and say, okay, I'm working on whatever process it is or service delivery that the county has, whether it's applying for Medicaid or getting their restaurant inspected by the health department, or they need to get the curb and gutter at their home or on their street replaced and working with Public Works. I think it would just be amazing if there was an opportunity to like, okay, I'm calling up and here are my needs. And then here's a person that's going to help walk you through it so that your experience dealing with the government can be as pleasant and productive as possible. That would be amazing.
I love that.
Yeah.
First, I need to address, yes, the planning department, making sure that is more seamless, and then air and water, again, those are just hugely beneficial and often overlooked, which is I don't know why we overlook those things. They're the most important things. But yeah, I haven't heard that with unlimited. Making it like a kind of like a one-on-one, like a person for
Your
person.
government buddy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like a government buddy. It's like, okay, what are we doing today? Like, let's walk you through that. Let's see it. Okay, I'll knock that out. Like, yes.
Yes.
If and when we get to that point of service, providing services, like that is going to be a great day.
Yeah. You can really say, I'm from the government and I'm here to help, right?
Yeah. Yeah, just what are we doing today? You let me know, and we'll work it on out. But yes, I believe once we get to that point, that'll be great. This is a horrible analogy, but what is like popping into my head? You know how like the greeters at like a Walmart, like they're super nice, like they're like super helpful. Hey, how you doing today? Can I point you in the right? I'm like, whoa,
right. What are you looking for? Okay, I'll take you to that aisle. Yeah,
and they're always like just really like nice.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I was thinking, what popped into my head when you brought that up. But yeah, I clearly have not heard that one. And yes, I'm excited and hopeful for that day. Now, outside of that, Jim, we're at the end of our podcast. Is there anything you'd like to leave either the Jentry community or the Colorado community with today?
Sure. I think, I've talked about it in different ways throughout the conversation today. It's hard to be a public servant in today's world. Take care of yourselves. Take care of one another. Try to stay in that space of how do we just keep making things better incrementally. I think it's easy to be overwhelmed with the challenges that communities are facing today. And it's the Jewish proverb, right? To save one life is to save the world. I think finding those small ways that you can contribute in a meaningful way to even one person, one business, one resident, let that fill your cup, right? Because it does make a difference, and multiplied over our communities over time, that moves the needle. But to do that, and to do that day in and day out in what can be really challenging environments, requires that you take good care of yourself and those next to you.
Makes a ton of sense. What I heard from that was appreciate the process, because every day you are supporting and helping the community. But you can only help the community if you're secure, happy, and well in yourself. So I think that was a great note to end on, Jenni. From everyone here at Jentry, I'd like to say thank you so much. We appreciate you sharing your time and experience and sharing your journey with us. And then to the viewers, we appreciate you tuning in, engaging, and letting us know what you think. It is very much a pleasure that you tune in and give us your feedback. So from everyone here at Gentry, I'd like to say thank you once again. I am your host, Jonathan Mason, and with me today was Jenni Hall, who is the Community and Economic Development Director of Adams County, Colorado. Thank you and have a nice day.